Here's your smart fact of the day. Okay, so what's the marshmallow experiment? The marshmallow experiment, I think in 1972, it was done by a few Stanford scientists. They kept a child or a lot of children in private rooms, kept a marshmallow in front of each child, and the child was told, if you resist eating the marshmallow for 15 minutes, you will get another marshmallow. Now, they tested out the kids who delayed their gratification for actually eating that marshmallow, and they kind of studied how those kids developed later on in life. And they found out that the kids who delayed their gratification, got two marshmallows instead of one because they could wait for 15 minutes, were the ones who did well. Now, this experiment has been criticized on a variety of issues, really, like ethical, moral, etc., etc. But on Smarter with Sid, what we are trying to do is figure out whether delaying gratification actually works, or are there times when delaying gratification is just harmful, or is it just a red herring, something that is just spoken about in the media and doesn't have any bearings on real life? Let's go. Right. So, welcome to Smarter with Sid, wherein we explore various ways in which we can become smarter. And one of the ways in which we can become smarter is becoming, wise about certain tests which we take for granted, and which, people have talked about and ad nauseum. And then we take it like it's the truth. But then new research comes in and it talks about why things go wrong and why the original research is bad and stuff like that. For all those who don't know what a marshmallow is, and I don't blame you because it is not famous in India or in Southeast Asia as much as it is in the West, it's a sort of a candy. It's a soft, sort of pillowy thing. It's quite tasty to some. I personally don't like it, but I'm not a kid. Kids tend to love it if they're exposed to it at a young age. Now, this experiment was kind of proving the fact, according to the scientists who'd done it, that delaying gratification is what makes human beings successful. Like, I wait for my reward, and because I wait for my reward, it is going to have a very beneficial effect. I'll get double the reward, I'll compound my interest, and the rest of it. Right? Seems very logical and rational. But on Smarter with Sid, what we try to do is understand the context behind the research and the kind of topic that we've chosen, then look at whether that topic itself is kind of going down to first principles. Can we glean some truths that are practical for us, some takeaways, and then kind of conclude? So what I started doing was doing a deep dive on this delaying gratification business, and this is what I figured out. Now, there's a new study from New York University, and what they did was that they restaged the classic marshmallow test, which was developed by this Stanford psychologist. Now, New York University got into it, and what they did was that they administered the test, and then they tracked again how children went on to fare later in life. And what they found out was that while the kids who could delay gratification were doing better, they basically also came from more affluent parents who had a lot of influence in society. Now, suddenly, these two factors make a big difference. The difference is that, okay, if I'm already coming from a rich background, it means that I have marshmallows at home. I perhaps have even better candy than marshmallows at home. So if I'm put in a room and if I'm told about a marshmallow, unless and until I'm super impulsive and have some sort of attention deficit disorder or something, and I mean it in a technical way, I'm not really going to be tempted by that one marshmallow if I'm going to get 2 and 15, because I know through experience with the life that my parents have given me that there is always one there in the pantry and I'm always going to get rewarded. So the study, which was quoted in the Atlantic, actually showcases the fact that there are a lot of factors. It's not just your ability to have willpower that is the determinant of your success. It is also how you're rewarded, the context that you come from. And it does make sense, doesn't it? The delaying gratification thing comes way easier if the delaying gratification is coming from a place of knowledge, of wisdom, that I'm always going to be rewarded because I know that's how the game works. So that's the context that I wanted to actually talk about, the whole delaying gratification business in this episode. This is the context. But how can we learn from it? Is delaying gratification really good, or then are we actually kept in a virtual waiting room because we are continuously delaying gratification? That was the question that was vexing me when I was actually doing some study into whether we should be working on something like this or not. I mean, can quote different examples in personal life, like when some person is keeping the other person hanging in a relationship. The other person is kind of delaying gratification, thinking that they're going to get twice the reward because of person A is, I'm very careful not to use any sex or gender reference, but person A is kind of saying, okay, wait for a little while and you'll get a bigger reward, you'll have a deeper commitment from me, etc., etc. It works in personal relationships, but I have seen that it actually has a more significant impact on work life. Because if you see the way in which bosses and peers and even people who work for you, if you're in the corporate world or if you're a consultant, you're again having stakeholders wherein you're dependent on them to kind of pay you on time if you're a vendor, or get work done if you're working together with someone, etc. And what they're always kind of saying is that, okay, just wait for a little bit and I'll give you something even better. And weirdly enough, that is the exact thing that we are discussing, isn't it? They're asking us to delay gratification, and we do that at times. We ask people to delay their gratification because something super duper is coming their way. But coming back, I think that this is what I call the virtual waiting room, especially in careers. And I'm beginning to wonder whether it's all that hot. I mean, sometimes, of course, if your boss promises you that you will get promoted, just bide your time, wait for 6 months, do what you're doing. And if you trust your boss and that's what you do, and 6 months later the promotion comes, fantastic. But how many times does it really happen that the promotion happens? Something which is not really in your control. And 9 times out of 10, all the people that I've talked to, and I'm telling you, this is anecdotal, it's not something which is very, how would I say, scientific and research driven. So let's leave the research for a while. 9 times out of 10, I think that it never works out. What I've always seen is that, oh, I was led up a garden path, chane ke jhaad pe chadhaya in Hindi. And fact is that it never works out for the person who's delayed the gratification. And I've been thinking of ways in which we can counter that, because a lot of times we have to pay attention to our stakeholders, we have to listen to them, and there are a lot of times when we don't have a choice but to say yes to their their promises of, oh, wait a bit and I will promote you, or I will give you an increment, or I will give you a bonus, or I'll increase the amount of money in your next contract, or whatever it is. I think the core aspect is to take back control from this virtual waiting room. I just believe that we should never be in a state of waiting. I think that the aspect of work, probably we should just do work because we are liking that piece of work. And we should always be on the lookout in today's day and age to figure out where we are going to find more value than what we are finding with the current stakeholders that we have. Now, you might say, oh, does that mean that I have to job hop? Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that do watch out for the delaying gratification tactic that people will use against you. Yes, human beings have succeeded in their lives because of delaying gratification, but now some human beings are manipulative enough to use the same tactic. And trust me, all of us do that. But if you're on the receiving end of it, we are tempted to wait, or we are tempted to delay stuff. Don't do that. Don't be in a state of waiting. Make sure that you enjoy your journey, not for the promise of a reward at the end of the journey, but just enjoy the journey. And I know that sounds cliched and philosophical, but on a more practical note, also ensure that you look out and figure out where you're going to get more value than what you're getting right now. And you might be surprised. Sometimes you might find out that this is the highest, and fine, and then you wait. But a lot of times you might end up being surprised. Well, I hope you like this particular episode of Smarter with Sid. many more to come from where this came from. And hey, by the way, in order for us to become continuously smarter like this, I've started something called Next Level Learning. And it is something which, I've priced it really low, and it is starting off with content strategy masterclass and how to do branding in a digital world. I'm sure it will help for all those people in these specific fields. More courses to come as we go along this train, but do subscribe to that as well. Connect. And if you like me, I'm the Traveling Professor on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And if you like podcasts like these, okay, first of all, like and subscribe to my podcast, and secondly, do check out a lot of wonderful stuff that IVM's got for you. On that happy note,